Mexico is not going to like it. This is what Donald Trump said as he signed the executive order labeling Mexican criminal groups, you know what word, as terrorists. But what does that really mean? Mike Vigil, a retired former high-ranking DEA agent, said it's nothing new. It's all been done. It would mean that the U.S. could send maybe drone strikes over. It could do incursions on the other side of the border. But that stuff probably goes on a little bit already. And, of course, we'd have to be very, very careful with that because Mexico is our number one trade partner. If you think Mexico is just some small, poor country to the south of us, well, it's not. It's a very large, medium-income country that's important to as a place for us to sell our goods, for part of the manufacturing process. For example, U.S. auto companies and Japanese auto companies have a lot of parts, like the engine blocks and stuff get made down there, and then they're sent over, and final assembly happens in the U.S. So what the impact of Trump making this declaration is, like many of his declarations, is probably more symbolic. He sees aggressive verbiage as good bargaining tools. The Mexican government did something very aggressive several years ago when they banned all DEA agents from coming into their country. Now, of course, they walked that back, but it was an aggressive tactic to push back on U.S. law enforcement getting too much into the mix of internal domestic Mexican politics, because they have people they want to protect, such as their president perhaps. But we're going to get back to corruption in Mexico. But let's look at what's going on the ground there first that would make Trump want to be so aggressive. Of course, there's been these massive waves of deaths the last, 5, 6, 7 years from Fetty. We're going on since 2017. We might be going on 500,000-600,000 OD deaths in the United States. Majority of it from some type of synthetic opioid. But if you've noticed your blue pills getting weaker lately, it's because they have. Now, in 2023, Los Chapitos, the sons of you-know-who, issued an order that there was to be no more F manufactured in the area of Sinaloa. And apparently that was put into effect. Many small distributors, small manufacturers did stop. Some that didn't were found el muerte. Now, of course, that didn't stop the flow in, but there has been less seizures at the border, and of the already pressed joints that are coming in, it's not so much that they're weaker, it's that there's less variance. So there was a wide variance in the purity of the F being made, and that was part of the reason there were so many ODs. You would go and get 2 pills from somebody and you were fine, and then the next time you got 2 pills, it was too much, you died, because it was being sourced from different chemists. So as the U.S. really pushed down hard on the F, I think as a very brilliant long-term strategy, Ovidio and Joaquín Guzmán, who are now in custody in the U.S., decided to make at least a show of slowing the production down or making it more stable, which also probably gave them a chance to consolidate their hold. Interviews with manufacturers on that side of the border say prior to 2 years ago, you could buy all the precursors on the corner and you just set up your own lab. It wasn't really so much the organized crime making the stuff. They provide protection, you pay them a tax, then if you're a chemist, you take it to the border, and then they buy it at the border and they move it over to the U.S. and do what they do. But now you have to get permission to manufacture. They have to trust that you're not going to make yourself a target of investigation. They have to probably trust you're going to make a stable product, or invariant product that's always the same, because really Americans could use all the F they wanted and it would be out of the newspaper headlines if there weren't so many ODs, which really comes from not so much you have to make it weaker, it just needs to be the same all the time. So that is somewhat going on. I think in 2024, all OD deaths were down like 17%, and probably from F it was more like 25%. So that's good. Now, Ovidio and Joaquín are the two guys that are in custody right now in the United States. Ovidio, of course, was captured about 18 months ago, one of Los Chapitos, and Joaquín is the one who showed up a few months back with El Mayo Zambada in an airplane as if he was, well, I doubt if it's as if he was. He certainly was turning in El Mayo. And like I said, as part of that long-term strategy I think these guys had, they said, there's so much heat coming from the Fetty, we need to turn down the volume of it so there's less OD deaths. We at least get it off of the front page of every U.S. newspaper, and then we're going to show up. So they grabbed a video, and once they got a video, these are four brothers, they're close, they said, well, we got to do something to ameliorate our brother's situation, because without that, he certainly would end up like the dad with life, no parole, maybe going to Florence ADX or some very awful maximum security U.S. penitentiary. But with the video in custody, the fentanyl turning down somewhat, and Joaquín showing up with El Mayo, they now are free, and this is just what happened in court the other day. The prosecutors revealed that they're working on a global plea agreement. A global plea agreement happens often in conspiracy cases where everybody agrees to plead guilty, make the government's job easy, and everybody gets a predetermined sentence. It's good for all parties, well, in the sense of it reduces hassle and cost. What would Ovidio and Joaquín be wanting to get in terms of time? Well, they have a marker. El Mayo's own son, Vicente, back in the trial against Mr. Guzman, Chapo, he got an 11-year sentence and had to turn in $1 billion. And in exchange, he testified against everybody, including his dad's old business partner. And he's now, Vicente is free in the United States. There's photos of him at airports. He's in witness protection, but I mean, he's traveling around. So in the age of the internet, you know, people's faces are known. Someone snagged a photo of him. So he's around in the U.S., but I mean, that was known. Just like the Flores twins, who just did the podcast. So Ovidio and Joaquín are trying to negotiate a global plea agreement. The top layer of the narcos down there have been, I think they've accumulated so much money. If they're smart, they're looking at the Colombian model. The Colombians, remember, after the death of Juan Pablo, they worked that amnesty deal where if you turned yourself in, you would do 5 years. And whatever money wasn't seized, you got to keep, and there were no more charges. So many of them, like the Ochoa family, the biggest family in the country, 2 of the brothers did 5 years, got out, and lived as normal, ultra-wealthy businessmen and didn't get back into business. One was stupid enough to get back into business, Fabio, and he caught another 30-year sentence, which he just finished, and he just got out and was deported back down there. But Chapo's wife, El Mencho's wife and daughter, a bunch of them have gone into the prison system, served a few years, probably gave up some people, some info, some money, and got out. And the question just is going to be, who are the sacrificial lambs? Chop is one. El Mayo is going to be another. I would imagine those 2 sons, Joaquín and Ovidio, want to get under 12 years. And they don't want their brothers that are still free to be taken into custody. And they're going to turn in a lot of money, and they're going to say, hey, we turned down the temperature on the Fetty Wap situation. Though Fetty Wap's so easy to make, we could see production move onto the U.S. side of the border. It may already be happening, and that would be scary. You know, if you wanted to make some money here in America, you could get the precursors in small amounts on the dark web and make your own batches. So hopefully we won't see that. Now, while Ovidio and Joaquín are trying to work a deal, there's 11,000 soldiers on the streets of Culiacán that has not been able to stop over 1,000 homicides and disappearances in the city over the last 120 days or so since the time of El Mayo being taken into custody while being tricked onto that plane. What a wild story that was, and you can watch my story on that. But it's so those two factions, the holdouts of El Mayo and Chapitos, are battling hard. It seems like Chapitos are winning, but there's so much violence. But El Mayo has hardcore people, and there's so much violence. It's gotten so bad now. If they have roadblocks. The narcos have set up, the sicarios have roadblocks around the city. You try to drive out, and if you look a certain way, they'll snatch you out of the car and take everyone's cell phone. And they'll look in all your contacts, and they'll look at all your text messages. And if they feel you're connected to a rival faction, you will be taken out there or snatched and taken for enhanced interrogation. So, like I said, there's been 1,000 deaths and disappearances just in the last 120 days. And Culiacán is a city not much bigger than, say, like a Detroit or something. It's maybe 900,000 people. Well, it's bigger than Detroit, but not much. It's about this. What's 900,000? Columbus, Ohio, or Indianapolis or something. It's 900,000 people. Those cities don't see 1,000 murders in 3 years or 5 years, probably more like. And they've seen that many in the last 120 days.